Gender GP has arrived.
Well, good heavens, what have we here? If it isn't the co-founder of Gender GP, Mrs. Helen Weberly.
Right here in America. Today I'm in Washington, D.C. to start letting American trans and non-binary people know that gender-affirming care is now more affordable than ever.
You see, it's not all bad news. Gender-affirming care is now more affordable than ever. And the founders of the multi-million-dollar companies that provide all of that gender-affirming care can now advertise to you with all of the glee and enthusiasm of a DFS sofa commercial.
You get access to your essential prescriptions from American physicians, you can pick up your meds in your local pharmacy, and you can get digital therapeutic support included, all for $29.99 a month.
Better be quick. The double savings summer sale ends Monday.
Now that's a bargain if ever I seen one. If you're not 100% satisfied with your child's current genitalia, you can swap it for a different one for just $29.99 a month. Chuck out that chintz today, am I right? $29.99 a month, well, and the £195 signing up fee and the £65 info session and around £50 to £100 on average in medication per month. Well, I guess they've got to feed their 100 employees somehow, eh? Now, the only negative I can see in any of this, and it's just purely hypothetical, this is just the cynic in me speaking, doing whataboutisms, you know? Is there any possibility that a multi-million pound company with 10,000 clients in 40 different countries, providing an online service for children as young as 8 years of age to change their sex, is there any possibility that perhaps they have a vested interest in encouraging these transitions? Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course.
If you need a way forward, we are right here and we're ready to help you on this journey. Truth in life is everything you think it will be. Love ya.
Who's Daniel Boland? Oh, Daniel Boland, this is a heavy hitter. Do you guys know who this is?
I'm Dr. Helen. I'm a doctor, a mum, and a gender specialist. I've spent the last 10 years learning everything about gender identity and being transgender.
Haven't we all?
And now I'm inviting you to join me so that you end up on the right side of history too.
Well, being on the right side of history, that is a compelling argument.
It is useless to resist.
Compelling, though somewhat ominous in tone, almost like a veiled threat, as though if I'm on the wrong side of history, there'll be consequences. You know, they'll drag me off to some kind of Nuremberg trial. I'd like to see them try and drag me off to Nuremberg.
It's time to really understand the beauty of diversity, the meaning of equality, and how to include everyone so that we all have a place in this world.
Go on then. You've got a deal. I'll hear you out. I'll be taking some notes, Helen.
Ethnic cleansing, that's what this is.
Come again?
Ethnic cleansing, that's what this is. Just like wartime, where you had to queue up and prove that you were pure enough to be able to live. And now we have to queue up and have a test to see whether we're female enough to take part in female sports.
Oh, ethnic cleansing. I see. Bit of a loose definition there of ethnic cleansing, I'd say, ma'am. Some would say a frivolous use of the term, given that the fact that, you know, what you're really describing there is the fact that a load of fully grown men who suddenly decide they're women, not content with the cake of having all of their peers, colleagues, the media, their friends and family, just random strangers they meet on the street, having them conform to their delusion, making everyone pretend like, oh yeah, oh, more of a woman, the greatest woman I've ever seen, she is more of a woman than my mother, I would say, on a good day. Not content with that, they want to devour their cake with by signing up to competitive women's sports and humiliating, in some cases battering to a bloody pulp their hapless opponents.
Absolutely disgusting behaviour.
Disgusting behaviour indeed. And speaking of which, what we're going to focus on in today's video, and I think what I focus on most of my videos, is not the collective of the trans community, all right? It's the vocal and more militant members of the trans community who, like the vocal and more militant members of most communities, tend to be overrepresented by people with varying degrees of psychosis and autism, and often just more subtle, unnoticeable at first, cunning, sly personality disorders.
I met a lady in a department store recently, and as she walked past me, our eyes touched, as if there was some kind of understanding, as if she knew me and I knew her. And then as she passed, she stopped and turned back and caught my arm. "Are you that trans doctor?" she said. "You are, aren't you? It's you, isn't it?" I smiled and acknowledged, but at the back of my mind, I was a little bit cautious. You see, not everyone loves my work. Some people even seem to want to hate me just for being on the right side of history. But anyway.
Just for being on the right side of history. Chilling stuff there, Helen. But come now, nobody thinks you're on the right side of history. Look, if it were just that you were a vocal proponent of this mad ideology, which is extremely contentious to say the least, extremely dangerous to the confused young children that you're pushing it on, if that was it, we would just lump you in with all of the other crazies that we laugh at on Twitter. The problem is that you set up a company, as I mentioned in the intro, Gender GP. You set up that company back in 2015 with your husband, Mike, and you've been profiting very handsomely from this ideology that you're pushing on the young children. You've amassed 10,000 clients in 40 countries. 10,000 clients, many of whom are those very young children, as young as 8. And like any good, profitable company, you're advertising yourselves as providers of expediency and reasonable prices. Look at your website there. Oh, forget the NHS waiting lists. Forget waiting for years. We can have you on puberty blockers within a fortnight. In a jiffy. Because that's the kind of thing you need about a fortnight to think about, isn't it? Yeah?
Then she told me, in a quiet voice, that she was a bit worried that her store rules might change and that she might be forced to use the men's loos or the accessible loos, both of which would out her at work. She did not want to have to explain why she couldn't use the ladies' loos.
Oh, God forbid. Like, this is something I don't think I've ever even spoken about this in any videos before, because it's so hacked to do it. But when you actually stop and think about how capricious and decadent our society is, that any minor inconvenience, like not being able to go into every single room I please because of the way I feel, is the biggest problem in some people's lives. There are a lot of things I'm not happy about, you know. I imagine most of you watching this have some grievances about physical appearance, about things that happen to you, about just the way your life might be going at the moment. Rooms that you're not allowed to go into. Things that you can't do because you don't have the money or you don't have the ability. Like, just because you've decided I'm not what I am, and I want to go to the ladies' changing rooms, and I want to go. It's like, sorry, sometimes life just tells you no. Maybe I'm being totally hacked, but I don't think I've ever said anything about this in any videos before. Maybe I have, God knows. But if you stop and think about it, it's pretty mad, isn't it? Yeah. Have you ever thought about it? God, fucking boomer.
She told me that every day before work, she would examine her face and she would look for any sign that might give the game away. Any tiny little flaw that might tell her daily secret. I took her arm back and I said, I think that's part of being a woman. Looking in the mirror at all the flaws that we see so clearly that others will never notice. That's certainly part of what makes me a woman. Funny creatures, aren't we?
Yes, you are a funny creature, and that's a very funny comb. Clearly that spine-chilling interaction never really happened. Hopefully, I guess. There can't be two people like that. Anyway, let's get into the juicy stuff. Let's see her recent interview on GB News.
February 24, Dr. Helen, the Telegraph reported that the Clinical Commissioning Group for South East London Clinic had issued a safety alert for gendergp.com, saying that, advising doctors not to prescribe puberty blockers or gender-affirming hormone therapy on your company's advice because your clinic doesn't provide physiological or psychological support to its patients. You were struck off by the GMC in 2024. What was that for?
No. I've not been struck off by the GMC in 2024.
You've lost your licence to practice?
I don't have a licence to practice. I relinquished my licence to practice.
Okay. Well, that is reassuring, isn't it? The owner of the company through which thousands and thousands of extremely confused parents are going to get the gender-affirming care for their yet more confused children. The owner of that company has not been struck off. She just relinquished her medical licence following some legal challenges. I see.
Okay. I didn't. So why didn't you renew it?
Why didn't I renew it?
Yeah.
Because I had regulatory work, if you like, for 6 years, and it was then too late to go back into it, basically. But I was cleared in March 24.
Yeah.
The High Court cleared me of everything that the GMC were looking at.
You were also involved, this is pertinent to our discussion, so I'm just going to reel through these. You also, in 2024, the High Court ruled...
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, a 15-year-old child was prescribed dangerous levels of hormones by your unregulated online clinic.
Wait.
Without speaking to a doctor.
Where are you getting that one from?
Court transcripts from the High Court.
Which High Court?
In London.
No.
The teenager known as Jay was born female but identifies as a boy and has autism.
That's not UK news. That was an Australian case.
Hang on a second, GB News. Get your facts straight. Which High Court? Which autistic 15-year-old?
Judge Sir Andrew McFarlane said there must be a very significant concern about the prospect of a young person such as Jay accessing cross-hormone treatment from any offshore, online, unregulated private clinic. The judgment in your case, Dr. Helen, says there was no medical examination, blood testing or other clinical evaluation was undertaken. Jay has not had any direct communication with a doctor at any stage during the referral to Gender GP. Your husband, Mike Webberley, is he involved in Gender GP?
No.
No. He's on your website.
Well, he may be from old, but he's not involved.
Why was he struck off?
Now, all of you internet sleuths out there can go and try and independently verify this information, but according to Wikipedia, husband Mike was one of the founders of Gender GP. And what happened was, back in 2017, when Helen was suspended from practicing following allegations of negligence and amongst other things, husband Mike came out of retirement. He had been a consultant gastroenterologist. He came out of retirement to oversee the business, take care of the clinic's patients, and generally make sure that things run smoothly. I guess, namely, transing as many kids as humanly possible. And after 2 years, naturally, people started saying, why is this old former gastroenterologist transing all the kids now? At least before they had a trans woman who kind of specialised in this. Why is this guy here, this old codger? And he was struck off the medical record. It's almost as though Gender GP didn't have their patients' well-being as their top priority. It's almost as though their top priority was, profit. And the way they make their profit is by transing all the kids, which, gotta say, pretty cynical.
There were many different reasons in that court case against my husband, but he's not here. I think if you want to ask him, you would ask him.
Well, the Telegraph reported a reckless doctor, referring to your husband, who wrongly prescribed puberty blockers to a transgender 9-year-old child after a 10-minute chat on Skype, has been struck off. Michael Weberly's treatment of 24 patients was deemed a catalogue of failings between February 2017 and June 2019. That's what the tribunal found.
Well, this is what the Telegraph is reporting, yeah.
Directly from the tribunal. So your husband, Mike Weberly, has nothing to do with Gender GP?
No.
The reason I'm asking these questions is because you're now coming into the United States off the back of a whole host of controversy. You dish out puberty blockers you refer prescriptions for doctors for puberty blockers.
Puberty blockers are prescribed by doctors. So you talk about the fact there's no doctor involved. I mean, how can you possibly get medicines without a doctor involved? It's very easy to give this one side of the argument from newspaper headlines because that's what sells newspapers. But what you have to do is look at the whole picture. How can you possibly dish out a puberty blocker from a doctor with no contact with a doctor?
Oh, GB News, dishing. There's no dishes. They have 10-minute Skype conversations with these kids before referring them to a doctor who just goes, yeah, whatever, and signs it. Look, the only thing these kids should be having on a dish is a fish. Thou shalt have a fishy on a little dishy. No more transing them. Okay.
My 2-year-old son came up to me the other day. I went back home to the UK, and he said, "Daddy, I'm going to have a baby." And I said, "Zach, you can't have a baby because you're a boy. You're a man. You can't have babies." And he said, "Well, I'm going to be a girl. I want to be a girl." What would you have said to him if you were me?
Well, I wouldn't have said, Zach, you're a boy and boys can't have babies, because that's absolutely not true. So, I mean, I don't know what your parenting is like.
You don't think think boys can have babies?
You mean males?
Yes.
Yes.
You think males can have babies?
Yes.
Right.
Do you want me to explain?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So transgender males have a womb, a uterus, and ovaries. Okay, so they were born, if you like, female, but they actually identify as males. So we refer to them as males. They have ovaries, a womb, a uterus, a vagina, and that means you can carry a baby.
Transgender males being women.
Well, that's extremely disrespectful to transgender males.
Well, they are women, aren't they? They're biological women.
They are males.
Well, if they're males...
What do you mean by biological women?
Now, this is where this person gets really interesting for me, Helen here. And I'm going to say she, and everyone will be like, why not? Why are you saying she? Because it's just easier for me that way, all right? She's obfuscating and making the conversation, far more complicated than it needs to be, and looks really in control, but she's saying crazy shit like male. I'm pretty sure male and female, up until now at least, male and female was the sex, the biological sex, which I thought we all agreed can't change. And she's just there like saying, no, they are males. I don't know if she really genuinely... I can't work out if she knows what she's saying or she's made an error and she just doesn't lose her cool. But you'll see how she gets this narcissistic rage start to take control of her. As the conversation goes on, she starts tweaking out.
Telling my 2-year-old son, as I did, Zach, you can't have kids, you're a boy.
I think that's sad.
You think that's sad?
I do. I think, do you know what it did? He said, "Oh, okay, Daddy, that's fine." And the next day he said, "Daddy, I'm Spider-Man." Would you want me to entertain that conversation and say, "Well, Zach, maybe you are Spider-Man"? What do you say? "Oh God, no, you're not Spider-Man. Oh God, Zach, you can't be a girl. God, Zach, you can't be Spider-Man." Or can't we just let children explore? 2 is an amazing age to explore. Why aren't we letting our children explore? I actually feel sorry for Zach right now.
Oh, well, sorry. Okay, well, I don't, because Zach has never mentioned becoming a girl again. And I think...
Cool.
Do you know
so
what
no problem, no harm done.
Do you know... Well, there is harm done when I argue
There's harm done,
with people...
because if Zach actually
Zach's not a girl, let me tell you. Zach is not a girl.
Let's talk about a different child, right, who went to his dad and said, Dad, I actually feel like a girl. And the dad said, no, that's not nice, because that shuts these kids down.
Well, the alternative is that you start...
The alternative is you believe them. The alternative is you can ask them, believe them, hear them. Or you can go, no, Zach,
the alternative is you believe them, you entertain in a child's mind, which hasn't properly formed yet. As I said, they think they're Batman one day, a girl or a boy the next.
Developing exactly what
you then pump them with damaging, irreversible puberty blockers and hormones. Let's talk about puberty blockers. Lupron.
Yeah.
How active is Lupron prescribed to people, to children? By the way, how young are some of your referrals?
Well,
9-year-olds?
It depends when puberty starts. It's not an age thing. Whenever your ovaries and testicles wake up.
Which could be as young as 9.
It could be as young as 8, if you like, yeah.
So you're...
8. See, as much as people like Helen can keep their cool, keep up the charade for a few minutes, make it sound even as though they are on the right side of history and everything they're saying is completely reasonable. There comes a point at which you get down to the bare bones of what they basically believe, and it's that an 8-year-old can make life-altering decisions egged on by their parents and a $1 million company that's fast-tracking kids. 2 to 3 weeks, it says on their website. $29.99 a month. 8's fine. If that's their age, if their testes have woken up, perfect. $29.99. Are you going to find a better deal than that? I don't think so.
This is about making medical healthcare accessible to people who need it.
Yeah, well, it's this is the front page of your website here. So be seen, skip the NHS's 5 to 10 year wait times, get compassionate, personalised, gender-affirming medications in just 2 to 3 weeks. How much do you charge people for signing up to Gender GP?
So the subscription is $29, $29.99 per month.
Are you profiteering, Dr. Helen, off the back of vulnerable children who have got mental illnesses? Do you ever consider that?
Transgender children or children who are questioning their gender are not automatically vulnerable, but this kind of conversation makes them extremely vulnerable. And transgender people are not suffering from a mental illness, and the fact that you think that or say that on television is cruel and unkind.
Again, by definition, gender dysphoria is a mental condition.
Do you mean a mental illness, or are you saying that?
I think it's a mental illness. Yeah, it's a mental illness.
Do you know one day you will have a transgender person in your life, and you'll look back on this conversation.
I don't think I will.
One day you'll have a transgender person in your life. Well, I don't think I will.
Especially not a child, because I'll tell my child, as I told Zach, my 2-year-old, he's a sweetheart. I'll say,
do that.
Zach, I love you, my boy. I'm not going to but today you're not Batman, you're not Spider-Man, you're not a girl today. And we've moved on. He's not mentioned it since. And I think if more people did that, instead of open, exactly, he's 2 years old. But leave the children alone.
One day,
let them be innocent. Let them
transgender person in your life, and you will look back on this and.
He did it again. One day you will have a transgender person in your life. Nope.
Let them be innocent. Let them
transgender person in your life, and you will look back on this and you will regret your words.
Okay, just as I argue that one day, maybe in 10, 15 years, this transgender movement, especially
it's been going on quite a long time. This transgender movement.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference between adults wanting to change their gender. I've got a transgender friend from 20 years ago, one of the OG.
Are they still in touch with you? Are they
I'm still friends with them now. The problem is, I don't care. Look, I'm a libertarian. Let trans people do what they want. If you want to.
When do you think people?
If you want to become a man, or a quote-unquote man or woman, that's fine.
They don't become a man or a woman, they are
okay, whatever. My issue comes with the children.
These are people. You're being so disrespectful.
I'm not. I'm saying let people live their lives.
Oh, whatever.
I'm saying let people
become a man, choose to become a man, whatever.
Well,
it's so disrespectful.
I say it in the fact that it doesn't bother me what you want to do with your own life.
My
problem comes with children.
But when do you think transgender adults become transgender? Do you think it happens at 18, or do you think it actually is their identity from within them, from whenever they were conceived or born?
I actually think you're very dangerous. I think you're taking God-given children who are innocent, who should be left to enjoy the fruits of life and the wonder and amazement of life, and people like you and your husband who has been struck off for recklessly pumping children, or at least referring children for hormones, dangerous levels of testosterone, which they shouldn't have been given in the first place without proper medical diagnoses or review in the first place. I think you're very dangerous, and actually I'd say borderline evil.
Okay, well, I think let's let your listeners decide.
All right.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a lovely idea. Let's allow the listeners to be the judge of that. Look, I don't want to be sitting here dunking on the libs. I could easily get videos off TikTok and Instagram all day and be like, oh, look at them, they're so woke. That's hack. I don't want to do that. However, I do feel that this Helen fellow was an exception I was willing to make. You know? Helen seems particularly pernicious. It's sickening whenever you see anyone profiting off of somebody else's vulnerabilities, but when it's 8-year-old children. Just imagine 10 years ago that one company offering gender-affirming care to kids had 10,000 clients in 40 countries. It says a lot about society, how far we've fallen, how decadent we've become, how insane and capricious we are, you know, that 8-year-olds are getting fast-tracked for $29.99 a month. No waiting list, screw that. And you've got somebody like Helen pretending, very in control of her thoughts, you know? Something very cynical about profiting off that kind of thing. And the way Helen does it, very cold, very sinister, very calculating, it seems. Allegedly. Maybe Helen's a great gal, I don't know. I'll let the listeners be the judge. I'm not judging anyone. Alright, I'm knackered, I've had enough. I'm done with this video. And if you've enjoyed any part of it, you should give the video a like. Damn you. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as I say, judge away in the comments. But be careful, don't be too judgmental. And follow me on X, follow me on Instagram if you want to know when I bring out a new video. And join my Patreon if you don't want me, you know. I'll trans myself.
Chris Eubank Senior, final one to you before we hear from the fighters. You called your son a legend for what he did in the ring in April. When you were sitting ringside watching that, what made you feel that way, and how proud were you of his achievements in the first fight against Conor Benn?
I have spoken. No, but don't talk, dreadlocks, but don't talk.
Okay, no problem whatsoever.